Okay, while Roma won Best Foreign Language Film, CAPERNAUM was also nominated for the same category, and it won the jury prize at Cannes last year. Annie, what's your take?
Actually, I really liked this one. So basically, it's a film by Nadine Labaki. It takes place in Beirut, Lebanon, and the central narrative is that of Zan, a boy of 11 years old, who tries to sue his parents for having brought him to this world when they can't raise him properly. I'm not sure if I really purchased that or bought that basic premise, but other than that, I think the film is really good. It follows Zan. He runs away from home after an episode of negligence from his parents and ends up living with Rahil, who is an Ethiopian migrant worker, and she's got a young son, Jonas, who she's hiding from the government. And the stories of these outcast characters, outcasts of the society, the paperless people, the illegal migrants, kids born into this incredible poverty and lack of education that they basically inherit from their parents. And I think the themes were just absolutely beautiful. The cinematography was great. It was very engaging. It really kept your interest into the screen and everything of it is really, really, really good, I think. What did you guys think about it?
Yeah, no, I unlike the other one, we're not going to have to fight about this one.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah. No, I thought it was excellent. It's a really engaging film, and I think the way it's been shot as well is quite good, because you're basically with this this young boy Zayn for the whole film, effectively, and it really all hinges on the performance of that young actor, but the way Nadine Labaki has shot certain segments, it really adds to it, because there are certain times where he needs to appear weak, there are certain times where he needs to appear strong, and the way she's framed him really, really communicates that. When he needs to appear strong, he's shot from below and he looks imposing, and then it flips it around. I think, and I'm interested to see what you folks thought about this. One of the things that I found the most remarkable about this film is it's a very grim film, right? It's a very depressing film in that it's not particularly uplifting. It doesn't have a particularly uplifting conclusion. There's a lot of misery on screen. However, it somehow manages to weave in bits of levity here and there, which I think is really quite remarkable, just in the way that Zayn interacts with the very young toddler of Rahil, who's the sort of the Ethiopian migrant worker who takes him in quite early on in the film, and his interactions with her son are some of them are really quite funny, and it adds I hate using the word sweetness, right, because it sounds so twee, but it adds a sweetness to the film and a lightness that I think it needs, because it is such a depressing topic, and I think that was quite remarkable, actually.
Yeah, I agree, and I think in that particular example is one of the best, because I actually think I heard somewhere else they said that's the best performance they've ever seen of a toddler ever, because his acting was really, really, really exceptional, and the acting of the young boy was unbelievable, and they were all, I believe, like found like non-actors, you know. I mean, obviously the toddler was, but
certainly Zayn is the kid who plays him, I believe, is a Syrian refugee, actually.
Yeah, that's true. And even the kid who plays Jonas, it's actually a girl instead of a boy, but she lost her parents as well. They were deported from the country during the filming, so the kid had to live with the filmmakers for a while. So all of this is kind of, you know, it's coming from a real events, basically. And yeah, like Amanda said, they're all, except for the parents, I think, are professional actors, but everyone else in the film is just off the streets.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of takes on it, including one that I commissioned for Take One, actually, whereby there's an argument that is maybe kind of guilting the audience a little bit. Now, I don't think that's a completely unfair criticism. I didn't really get that myself, and I think the reason for that is those moments of levity that are woven in. Now, I don't want to keep going on about it, right, because I don't want this to come across as if this film's a laugh riot, because it's really, really not. But it, to me, presents a reasonably genuine picture, because when people find themselves in trying circumstances, one of the things that gets them through is humour and maybe kind of the slightly ridiculous things that you can do to lighten your situation. I think this film actually gets that across really well. I think it gets across how a child in that situation would deal with it, and I think that's really not an easy balancing act. I think that's why it was nominated for that Oscar, and why I wouldn't have complained if it had won, to be perfectly honest. It's doing a lot of things to make it not a laborious watch. It would be very easy to make this an absolute slog to get through. And it's certainly not uplifting, but it's not. You really want to follow the story. It's a story well told, well acted, and I don't think anything is really out of place. If anything is, I'm not sure the courtroom framing device worked quite as well as it could have. That I didn't really click with, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't really buy it. It doesn't. There would have been other ways to get the courtroom to work. Just the whole premise of suing your parents for being born, and then somebody actually taking it seriously. That just doesn't work. Well, the rest of the film was so kind of real and gritty that kind of distanced me a bit. Like, it's not a bad idea, and I can understand why it's there. Fully can understand why it's there, and it's innovative. It kind of grasps your interest when you go into, oh, look at this. Like, this seems interesting. What a premise. But yeah, I didn't buy it fully. That was the issue.
It's something that I find films end up doing a lot. They start, now I forget what the Latin term is for it, there's some technical term for it, but when you start basically in the middle of the plot, right?
In media res.
That's it, exactly. Thank you, Paul. Right, so there's a lot of films that do this now, and I don't necessarily feel like they need to. This felt a little bit like that, because you're constantly then trying to pay attention to when you're going to get back to where it started. Now, when it kicks it off, I think that's fine. I think it doesn't need to call back to it later on in the film. So that bit didn't quite work, even if it does lead to a couple of set pieces that are quite good. Like the mother has a very impassioned speech at one point, which I actually think is kind of essential to the themes of the film. If it was not in there, then it could be a bit problematic. But I feel like that could have been woven in slightly better, which is not to detract from the film overall. I really do think it's excellent. But, as with anything, very little's perfect.